Good morning, everyone. My name is Subotic, and I'm going to be talking today about how to actually build a data strategy. It's my utmost pleasure to be here in Belgrade, and I'm going to start actually by asking a few questions. So if you can just raise your hand. So how many of you have heard of data strategy? Okay, about half. A little bit more. In the organizations, companies you work in, universities included, how many of those have a data strategy? One hand, two, okay. Three, that's really good, okay. And if I ask you, who owns data in your company? Would you know? Yes or no? Few nods, so. Right, okay. I hope I'm going to bring some useful insight to you in today's presentation because I'm going to talk about these things. So essentially, I'm going to tell you a little bit about my, background and why am I entitled almost to talk about data strategy. And then I'm going to talk about a little bit about my company and what we do. And then I'm going to drill into what is data strategy, why we need one, and how do you actually go and create one. And then I'm going to bring us back to so what question, which is a really important question, and some final thoughts. I actually spent most of my career in aviation. Okay, so I worked for British Air Traffic Control and for aviation consultancies for probably around 15 years. And this experience kind of, I just had like many different careers throughout this period. Started as a human factors specialist, safety specialist. I ran an alliance of 9 air navigation traffic service providers, but most of the time was in a British Air Traffic Control, and in that company, it was after the board decided that the company really needs data strategy that I was brought in to actually kick off the work from scratch. I've done that. I led a team of analysts as well, a large team of analysts, and then recently I joined Ascent, which is again British company with many different teams around the world as well. And I'm right now in a team that actually delivers data strategy for others and help companies embrace this concept. So the important thing that I want to show you is that I had experiences from both sides. Experience from actually building one for a company, building and implementing data strategy, but also having an experience now as a consultant and actually helping different businesses from retail to finance sector actually get on top of their data and really understand what value they want to get out of it and how they want to use data to drive their business objectives and business strategy. The previous role, the British Air Traffic Control is a privatized business. It has regulated and unregulated side, so they're very much ring-fenced. And it's 4,000 plus employees, various different parts of the company, and we were rolling out data strategy, rolling it out for the whole of the company. So very much from, compared to what Peter was saying, it was a centralized rollout. Started under the CIO, Chief Information Officer, and then continued. I kind of took it with me from head of data transformation all the way to director of analytics. It kind of stayed with me throughout the journey. Right now, in Ascent, what we do as a data consultants, we actually inspire organizations to really understand what it is they actually need behind the hype words that you hear these days. We educate, we ideate. So we really try to help them come up with ideas in a very structured way and shortlist them to those few really good ideas they really want to focus their resources and time on. We strategize, which is where we deliver data strategy, and we mentor. And a lot of things, a lot of times around Inspire and Ideate is actually exploring the art of the possible. And that is very important. And strategize, as I said, I'm going to talk about it, data strategy. Ascent as a company has 3 pillars. We use data, software, and platform all in combination to deliver value for our customers. We're a Microsoft partner, so yes, we do rely on Microsoft and Azure platforms, but when we do consultancy work, we are platform agnostic, and we will work with whichever platform the customer has. I sit under data banner, and within this area, we also have a large data science community and team that actually help us look at the problems for our customers from different perspectives and really kind of bring a different point of view and different potential solution to their problems. And this is where data-driven services products come into play. One of the things that I like about Ascent is that we work with a range of customers. And as I said, like retail companies, finance sector, you name it, and everyone in between. And that brings a vast amount of experience and exposure to various different industries that are going through different phases. COVID, as mentioned by Peter, had a different impact on different industries. In aviation, it was very hard, made a very negative impact because people stopped flying and going on vacations, tourism, travel. In things like finance, retail, we saw a boom, and we saw a massive amount of investment in data, digital, etc. So, data strategy. Why? In the UK, we say there is 14 billion reasons why you need data strategy. I'll tell you what this is. The digital transformation market in the UK is estimated to be 14 billion pounds. It comes behind the Nordics and the Netherlands, for example. So just to give you a feel for the size of this market, most of it is custom software development. There is data consultancy there, and there is, of course, data science. But what's really important and interesting for me, at least, on this slide, is that 97% of technology leaders say that they have embarked on some kind of digital transformation. But if you ask them, well, okay, do you have a data strategy or digital strategy to underpin that? Most of the time, the answer is no. And it's very important when you do large investments and when you really kind of focus your resources, time, energy on certain things, you need to make sure it's the right thing to do. And it fits the big picture. And this is where data strategy fits. If you are an internal chief data officer or head of data transformation, whatever is the name, on your day one, you are about to face some or all of these things. Legacy data environments. We all store data in legacy platforms. That's inevitable. We're all investing into new platforms. We have to make them talk to each other. We have to integrate them. Legacy technology. Again, inevitable. Legacy applications, legacy business and change processes. What used to work doesn't work anymore. And Peter again mentioned the importance of culture. And you know, all of this needs to be tackled through culture. Shadow data, analytics, IT, I've seen it all. I really have. Multiple suppliers that come on board, which is absolutely natural. But unless you have certain ways of working that you're going to tell them that they need to comply with, it's going to be a bit messy. And then finally, you can see silos, turf wars. One department getting more funding than the other. They're going to run with their digital transformation, not caring about anyone else. That happens as well. And then the CDO comes, Chief Data Officer, huge expectations on them. And they need to actually make sense of all of this and find allies and find actually the right projects to invest their time and effort. I always say the most important thing for CDO or head of data transformation is the coffee and cake budget. Okay? Because you need to spend a lot of time talking to your peers and understanding what it is that they want to achieve. And then you need to start thinking how you can help them. So listening is a key skill in this, and it shouldn't be underestimated. And through listening, you need to start identifying hooks. Sometimes in the company, they can see you as a threat. You need to eliminate this fear on, day 2 almost, because you need to show that you are somebody who's going to help them achieve their vision, their goal, whatever their target is. And you're going to do it through data. And you're going to do it through sorting out the data, creating some discipline and structure. How do we do it? If you start with data strategy, you have to start with business strategy. So no matter how many strategies you have in your organization, they all have to be in sync, and they all have to be aligned with the business strategy and business objectives. Otherwise, you're going to invest a huge amount of money and huge amount of effort into solving the wrong thing, because it's not the thing that's going to bring you closer to your business objective. So this is the key. Start with the business objective, start with the business strategy, and see how data can actually help achieve it faster, better, sooner. Whilst doing that, you will start getting certain themes. You will start getting a feel for what are the key issues in organization and where you really need to focus your efforts. And they will kind of lend themselves towards data initiatives that you may or may not need to structure into certain work streams. But at a base of all of this are the transformation pillars. If you sort out platforms and make them talk to each other, okay, that's really job done, great. But unless you sort the processes around it, it's not a future-proof solution. So you need to have the whole lot around your data also thought through and implemented, so to make sure that the change will stick. And it's not going to disappear as soon as you maybe change your job or disappear from the company. So people and culture, again, I reiterate what Petra was saying, is really important. Getting people to understand why data transformation or digital transformation is the key for our business. Technology, getting technology to talk to each other, getting seamless data integration, data reconciliation. Program and change. So every change in organization is a massive hit and needs to be structured as a program, needs to have somebody in charge of it, somebody who's going to actually follow it through. Management and governance, the key. The leadership. If leadership is not behind this, you do not stand a chance. And it's very important to find a way to tell your story in a compelling way. And of course, data and analytics capability. It's all about that. What you're doing above is creating a foundation that allows you to use data in a more mature way and to use data to really drive your business decisions and generally your decisions. I've seen enough businesses that still rely on a gut feel, subjective experiences to make decisions, very important decisions. And my experience and your experience will differ. So basing a decision on somebody's experience is a very narrow way of looking at things. You need to use data. You need to be objective. Typically, we deliver data strategy document. It's not necessary, but if you're a consultant, you want to show a product at the end, this is usually a good product. It's very simple structure, very intuitive, and it essentially takes you through the initiatives that I've spoken about. It shows the link between your vision for data with your business strategy. And then it shows what are the key themes in your organization that you should focus your efforts on to use data. And what you want to achieve. What is the impact you actually want to achieve? And how data helps you with it. And usually, remember I told you, you have a long list of ideas, you narrow it down to a short list of ideas, you create a roadmap, no-brainer, you know, the usual stuff. What's important is that every business has a data story to tell. And it's important to find a story or a line, like that elevator pitch line, that really resonates with your business. And then keep on repeating it. Once when you hear it back, repeated to you, you know you achieved, you know you kind of made it. Because the business get it, and the business now really kind of lives and breathes this message. And also here, what I want to show is that everything is connected. Your business strategy is connected to your vision for data, is connected to your teams where you're going to put your effort in. The roadmap comes as a logical outcome, so everything connects. And this, essentially, is your data strategy. There are some key components that are close to my heart because I've lived them. So I'm going to focus on a few of them. Data governance is one. I've asked a question about who owns data in your companies, and there were like 3 hands, I think, in the whole room. And that's very typical. There are organizations where you know you have an issue with data, and you have to talk to 20 people, and I'm not joking, to try to get some sense out of it and to figure out who's going to actually action a fix. Or you want to decide you want to sell some data. And again, you need to talk to 20 different people to figure out who needs to give you authority to sell this data and for how much money and what's the commercial framework around it. So ownership of data is really key. And Gartner, DAMA, you know, various industry data standard organization, they do recognize this importance. The way I see it, I like to attach it to the executives. And sometimes certain types of data may be split between 2 executives, but never go into this fight. That's not the fight you want to fight. Let them have a fight. Let them decide between them who's actually going to own it. Because there should be only one owner. Because with execs, you have the accountability layer. They can't delegate. They can delegate responsibility, but not accountability. So it's important that they decide who's going to own which data domain, as we call it. They're the owner, they're accountable, and at the end of the day, they're going to be responding if anything goes really wrong. The next layer down is direct. This is where a chief data officer or whatever is the title in the organization, this is where they live. And they set the direction of travel. They're the people with experience and enough influence over the executives, and they will set the direction for travel for the data strategy work and the focus areas. And they are responsible to set certain number of practices, processes, templates, tools for the next layer down to use. For me, the next layer down, data stewards, are the key, without a shadow of a doubt. They are at the heart of every data strategy in the company, in organization. They're the ones who are responsible for particular groupings of data in their organization. You don't have to have all of your data managed under data strategy. What you need to do is look at all of your data sets, see and figure out which ones are the most valuable, and focus on those. That's a very good start. And with data steward, that's a set of tasks that a person, data steward, can do as a part of their day job. But what I often say to organization is, organizations is that you already have people doing this. It's just done 20 times in 20 different pockets of organization. What you're going to do with this setup, you're going to consolidate it, and you're going to create a standard and structure of how they're going to do it. And you will know exactly who's going to do it. If you have your people data, okay, data about your staff, employees, contractors, addresses, emergency contacts, people data, okay, you will have one data steward overseeing all of this. This role, this set of tasks, is on an enterprise level. And please, you know, this is not linked to a business function, because multiple business functions will use the same data to run the business. So the control function, the direct function, ownership, this is all our enterprise level. So somebody will be in charge for people data for the whole of the company. And they will be regularly checking quality, completeness, accuracy, you name it. They will probably have automatic tools, they will do some manual checks, they will just make sure they have a single source of truth. And single source of truth is what you're after. COVID is a great example. I know a company, COVID hit, they had to really kind of get the executives together, start making a very tactical decision. And there was a question of, okay, let's monitor the amount of people who are infected, who are self-isolating, who can't work, who can work. And it took a week to figure out how many employees they have. Okay? Because there was one data set that was showing number of employees, contractors, maternities, secondments, etc. And there was another set that was showing the same minus maternities, secondments, etc. People on unpaid leave, etc. Both results were accurate, but what is the single source of truth for number of employees right now in a company is a good question. So, and this is where I say that this, knowing what is your single source of truth and knowing who is responsible for that particular set of data and who can actually tell you the information can be very critical and can be reputational, because if this data is shared in public domain, you may end up with 2, 3 different answers and people will ask. It doesn't look good. And the last layer down is data custodian, which is essentially your database administrators, people who, they're usually linked to a business function. They look at a certain database or certain data set, and they do quality checks, quality control on a regular, probably sometimes even daily basis. So this is the governance structure. Maturity assessment. Very nice way to tell a story to the C-suite. This is where your company is, and this is where you're heading. Like navigation from A to B, okay? There are many different standards out there, freely available, that you can take and use. I'm going to mention a few. But essentially, what I'm kind of advising is simplicity. You know, you can go from level 1 to level 5, 5 being expert. And to be honest with you, you don't have to go for 5 as an organization. Sometimes 3 or 4 is plenty. Especially if you're starting from 1 or 2. Just hitting 3 will be, it will require a massive amount of effort and time and so forth. So take your steps slowly. Gartner has a way to look at maturity. They start from 0, for example. DAMA, again, they have their own approach. IBM has something. In my previous job, we actually used IBM and we tailored it a little bit to our own organization. But what I'm trying to tell you, there's plenty out there. You can just pick and choose. But when you talk to the C-suite, it's really nice to show this is where we are as a company, and this is where we're heading, and they get it. Data literacy. Once upon a time, I've spent 3 months discussing the difference between data and information. Would you believe that? Yes? Maybe in this environment, you know, it's shocking, but it was very much needed. People who are not data literate or digitally literate, they use data and information interchangeably. And it was very much important for me to give them time. So I had a data working group, which was made up of some experts and some enthusiasts. And we spent together 3 months arguing, discussing the definitions and coming to a position that, yes, data and information are two different things. And information is one level richer. It's your data in a context that starts actually to mean something. And that was a very important lesson for me as a data practitioner. I've learned a lesson to give people time, especially at the beginning, to grasp some of the basic concepts when you start on this journey. And that's why, for me, data literacy is very much an important part of data strategy. You need to actually invest into educating your staff. In the job I do today, we start data literacy with a C-suite because we need to sell importance of doing this for the whole of the business. When I was developing data strategy for my own company, for a previous employer, I've actually started with everyone in the business. And we spoke about mandatory CBT training that would actually refresh everyone's knowledge on an annual basis. We had annual cybersecurity training. I wanted to actually inject basic data training as well. And this is where we would talk about what is data, what is information, who are the data owners in our company, where do you need to go if you're approached to sell the data, etc. What is the process and procedure you need to follow? How to read a graph is very important part of education, a basic data education. And this is something where I see that COVID really helped us, because COVID kind of pushed us all towards digitization a little bit. And I've seen my previous executives moving away from Word reports and really embracing Power BI or whatever, Tableau, doesn't matter what you use, and really kind of living this like new way of reporting, which was so much better. And also being able to now start discussing what they're seeing on the graphs. But, you know, it's very important to educate them how to read those graphs. Intermediate training engagement needed, strategic level, tactical level as well. But again, tailored training. I was leading a team of 60 analysts. I've rolled out R, Python, Databricks, Power BI, you name it. So this is kind of the audience where you actually want to really instill some targeted training for specific, groups of employees. Maybe stats, operational research, modeling, depends. Like different pockets of the organization will need different levels of training. But starting with the basic is really, really important. And do not assume that people know how to read graphs. Do not assume they know the difference between data and information. That's really important. So what? Back to the beginning. Remember I told you, I don't know what happened with this slide. It doesn't look really good. Remember I told you the things on the left are the things you're going to face in pretty much a lot of companies. On the right, it's important there is this quote that I really like that unfortunately you can't see for some reason. Good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions that you're not aware of yet. And this is by the guy, Scott Taylor. Check him out. He calls himself Data Whisperer. And it's true. It's really true. Because a lot of the organization will not have decisions that are as good as they can be. because they're not based on data. Or they can base it on pockets of data, but because, so let me give you an example. Lots of companies are now growing. They're acquiring new businesses. Data comes on various different platforms, and often they can't tell how they perform, because the data of organization 1 is in one platform, of organization 2 is another. They can see performance in silos, but not the overall performance, unless they do some data integration and reconciliation. So absolutely decisions are not as good as they can be. You will also have increased costs. You will have data sitting in different locations. Most of the time, business is not even aware. They can be buying data, similar data from different suppliers, storing in multiple locations, using by multiple teams. It's very inefficient, very risky, and very costly. And nobody's really in charge of data. Data is not seen as asset. And I love this, my boss has this amazing story. If your company erased all of the data today, and you show up tomorrow to work, you wouldn't be able to do anything. But if I ask you whether data has a value, you would be, maybe not. I know it's hard to tell. It has a lot of value. We can't run the business anymore without data. But what's hard, it's actually to monetize that data. That's still very hard. And poor data literacy leads to data being ignored and doubted. So again, it's like a vicious circle. If you ignore the data, then you're not making the right decisions, or as good as decisions you could, and so forth. So I really like the mission of this conference. Let's really change the world through data. But my advice is, please start with data strategy or some kind of a strategy at the top. Every business is data-driven. So data is at the core of this success. And this success depends heavily on the level of discipline, the level of control you have. And this is all actually sorted by data strategy. And finally, there is a data story to be told in every business. Make sure to find a compelling story. That's the only way you're going to get attention of the C-suite, which means you're going to get funds and you're going to get resources to make it happen. And with this, thank you very much. And if there are any questions, please go ahead.
We have 1 full minute for questions, so if there, oh, okay, there's one.
Some important words have been mentioned, some of them more oftenly, some of them less oftenly. Strategy has been mentioned a lot. Culture has been mentioned, even ethics has been mentioned. My question is about ethics. Who is going to be the one to implement ethics into usage, selling and other manipulation done with data? And perhaps in more specific, is this one of rare moments in development that this question can be asked?
Absolutely.
Your thoughts, please.
No, in the UK, we have Data Protection Act, and every company in the UK is required to have data protection officer. And it is their job to actually work with the business to tackle the issue of data ethics, how it is data used, and also to share the data. Because in the UK, you can send, through Data Protection Act, you can actually request from any company to send you everything they have on you as an individual, as a citizen. So there is a lot of focus on ethics, on not actually storing the data you don't need. And for example, the companies are now, the larger companies are rolling out data protection training usually done as a CBT, just to get the employees familiar about data protection and what their role and responsibility is, because everyone has a role. So in the UK, that's kind of, they pushed it to a next level through the Data Protection Act, but there is Data Protection Officer that is a key leader when it comes to ethics and use of data, storage of data, and that whole kind of topic.
Thank you. And in the wider plan, do you believe that currently existing legislation is leaving no uncovered space for data management?
Does it leave any?
Uncovered space for data management.
I think we will always have uncovered space. We don't know what we don't know, you know, and it's by working together, by actually setting certain policies early on, I think we're going to uncover more things that are missing, which is natural, and then we will have hopefully already mechanisms to address that.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Branka, for a very inspiring presentation.